2 spoonfuls of wood ash, scattered around a vegetable plant that had been showing fresh slug damage almost every morning. No pesticide, no bait, no spray, just a gray powder most people throw away. 7 days later, the slime trails disappear. The chewing stops, the damage stops spreading. For once, the slugs seem to have found somewhere else to eat. That should not be happening. Now, a lot of people will tell you, this is just another old gardening myth. It isn't. Research has repeatedly shown that wood ash can suppress certain soft-bodied pests under the right conditions. So this isn't folklore, and it isn't luck. But here is the part most gardeners never hear. Most people think the secret is what wood ash does to the pest. It isn't. And that misunderstanding is exactly why this method works for some gardeners and fails almost overnight for others. Why can one rainstorm wipe out your results? Why do some gardeners swear by wood ash while others never touch it again? And what is that ash actually doing before a pest ever reaches the plant? In the next few minutes, you'll discover why wood ash works, the mistake that ruins it for most gardeners, and a little-known technique that can make it far more effective. And if you've ever bought a pest control product that worked for 3 days and then seemed to retire early, you're going to want to see this. To understand how this works, we first need to understand what wood ash really is. The strange thing is, wood ash was never a secret. Generations of farmers relied on it, long before commercial garden centers existed. Yet most gardeners know more about the latest spray than they do about one of the oldest methods on Earth. And there's a reason for that. When pests show up, most of us follow the same cycle. Buy the bottle, apply the treatment, hope it works. Sometimes it does, for a while. Then the pests return. Usually right around the time you think you finally won. Most gardeners assume they need a better product, a stronger formula, or simply more of it. But what if they're solving the wrong problem? Most people focus on, how do I kill this pest? The best growers ask a different question. Why is this pest so comfortable here in the first place? That sounds like a small shift. It isn't. Because once you start looking at the environment, instead of the pest, something important becomes obvious. Wood ash changes the conditions. And that single idea explains why it has survived for generations. Because what most people think wood ash is, and what it's actually doing, are two very different things. Most gardeners think wood ash works like a fertilizer. Others assume it works like a poison. Neither explanation tells the full story. In reality, wood ash works because of what happens between the pest and the plant. A slug doesn't care about gardening advice. It cares about the ground directly in front of it. The moisture, the texture, the surface itself. And that is where wood ash becomes interesting. Fresh wood ash is an extremely dry, mineral-rich powder. To us, it feels soft. To a soft-bodied pest, it creates a completely different experience. Because wood ash doesn't start by affecting the pest. It starts by changing the path between the pest and the plant. The ash changes the conditions first. The pest reacts second. And once you understand that sequence, the rest of the story starts making sense, including why the method can seem highly effective one day and suddenly fail when the weather changes. Because the real secret is not just what wood ash contains. The real secret is what happens when a pest tries to cross it. So what actually happens when a slug reaches fresh wood ash? It encounters two things many soft-bodied pests struggle with: dryness and alkalinity. Slugs depend on a moist, protective layer just to move. Without that moisture, movement becomes much more difficult. Fresh wood ash interferes with those conditions. At the same time, wood ash is naturally alkaline, and many soft-bodied pests do not respond well when surface conditions change that suddenly. Now that doesn't make wood ash a magic pesticide, and it certainly doesn't mean every slug disappears. But it helps explain why many growers notice reduced activity around freshly applied ash. There is also a physical side to the story. Under magnification, wood ash is not perfectly smooth. It contains tiny mineral particles that create a very different surface than moist soil. To us, it feels soft. To a pest, it can be far less inviting. Think of it this way. Most of us wouldn't choose to walk barefoot across rough gravel if an easier path existed right beside it. And if you've ever watched a slug find the one gap in your defenses, you already know they're surprisingly good at finding the easier route. But this brings us to the weakness of the entire method. Rain, because rain changes everything. The moment fresh ash becomes saturated, its dry surface disappears. Its alkalinity becomes diluted, and many of the conditions that made it useful begin to fade. The path becomes easier to cross again.
And that is exactly where the biggest wood ash mistakes begin.
Now here is the mistake that causes more failures than almost anything else. Most gardeners treat wood ash like a permanent solution. Apply it once. Walk away. Problem solved. That would be convenient. Unfortunately, that is not how wood ash works. You apply the ash. You see fewer pests. You feel encouraged. Then a week later, the slugs are back as if nothing ever happened. At that point, most people assume the method failed. But very often, the ash didn't fail. The garden changed. A rainstorm arrived. Overhead irrigation passed through the bed, or moisture slowly accumulated until the barrier weakened. The path became easier to cross again. That is the mistake, treating a temporary barrier as though it were permanent. Most gardeners watch the pest. The best gardeners watch the conditions around the plant. That single shift changes everything. And if you've ever watched slugs somehow appear the moment your defenses weaken, you're not alone. They never seem to check the weather forecast. Yet they always seem to know exactly when conditions become easier. Once you understand that, the smaller mistakes become much easier to spot. Using excessive amounts, applying it where pests rarely travel, or waiting until the damage is already severe before taking action. Wood ash is not about covering everything in gray powder. It is about influencing the route a pest is most likely to take before it reaches the plant. It requires observation, timing, and consistency. So if applying more ash is not the answer, what does an effective application actually look like? Placement matters far more than quantity. A thin, targeted ring around vulnerable plants is often more effective. Not thicker, not wider, just intentional. The goal is simple. Place the ash where the pest is forced to cross before it reaches the stem, because that is where your intervention has the greatest leverage. And timing matters just as much. Fresh ash is most useful when conditions are dry. If heavy rain is expected tomorrow, applying it today may accomplish very little. Experienced growers pay attention to the forecast first, then decide when to apply. Because prevention is easier than recovery. Anyone who has ever watched fresh lettuce seedlings turn into a midnight buffet already knows that lesson. The practical approach is simple. Use a thin layer. Place it along likely travel routes. Apply during dry conditions. Reassess after rain, irrigation, or prolonged morning moisture. Nothing complicated, nothing expensive, just observation, timing, and consistency, which is exactly why this method survived for generations. But there is one final technique many traditional gardeners used alongside wood ash that rarely gets mentioned today. And when combined with wood ash, it can make the entire strategy far more effective. See, the forgotten companion technique isn't an extra ingredient or a secret product. It's a framework of execution. First identify the route, then treat the route. That was the entire strategy. Not treating the entire garden, not covering every square inch of soil with gray powder, and certainly not throwing more material at the problem. It was simply learning where pests were most likely to travel before they ever reached the plant. Experienced growers watched where damage appeared first, which beds were attacked earliest, which sides of the garden stayed damp the longest, and which plants attracted the first visitors. That information changed everything, because once you know the entry points, you stop treating the entire garden and start focusing your effort where it matters most. Less waste, less effort, better results. And if you've spent enough time gardening, you've probably noticed something similar. The first damaged plant is often not the real problem. It's the clue. The garden is quietly showing you where to look next. Identify the root first. Treat the root second. Observation before intervention. Not because observation replaces action, but because it makes action far more effective. The real secret was learning to see the garden differently. To stop reacting to problems after they appeared, and start noticing the patterns that created them in the first place. That is why methods like this survived for generations. Not because they were magical, not because they worked every single time, but because they encouraged gardeners to understand the ecosystem they were working with. And that lesson reaches far beyond wood ash. The healthiest gardens are rarely built through constant intervention. They are built through observation, patience, and small adjustments made at the right time. If there is one thing I hope you take from this video, it is that many of the most effective gardening lessons are often the simplest ones. The products change, the methods change, but paying attention never goes out of style. And if you've discovered an old gardening technique that still works in your garden today, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Because some of the best lessons are still being passed from gardener to gardener, and those lessons are often too valuable to lose.